So the PWI 500 came out finally in magazine form.
We have our copies.
Pro Wrestling Illustrated does this every year. They release the 500 best male wrestlers in the world, according to them. And it's across all promotions, all countries, all guidelines.
According to them.
According to them.
For that year. For the year.
So I think what we wanted to do, honestly, I'd rather just start 1 to 10 and kind of talk about it that way.
Man.
And then I'm gonna go through here and kind of talk about some of the other names that pop up.
That's fine. You want to talk 1 to 10? You want to start with the cover boy?
Yeah. Why don't you stay on 1 through 10? I'm gonna kind of wander through here and just kind of discuss some of the other people that come up.
In case you haven't heard, number 1 is The Miz.
That's right, The Miz at number 1 wrestler in the world.
For that year.
Your thoughts?
I mean, he had the best year. According to them. It's we were talking earlier, and it was kind of a crap. I mean, PWI does their stuff summer to summer, so like
it's not March to March. A lot of people think of wrestling in terms of where Mania is at on the calendar, but it's summer to summer.
Or even January to December. But it really is summer to summer.
Every October this issue comes out, and the grading period ends like a month or two before that.
Still August, but
August.
Well, today is August.
Well, it's the October issue.
That's stupid. I
That's stupid too because it says display until September. Fix that, PWI. That's really dumb.
All magazines do that. I never understood. Anyway, point is, Miz number 1, and the big arguments is that he had a 5-month title reign, which in this day and age is huge. He beat John Cena in the main event at WrestleMania, and during the grading period, he held every championship that was available on his Raw brand for him to home.
He won Money in the Bank.
Well, that's the thing. He won Money in the Bank. He won the world title. He won the tag team titles, and he won the U.S. title.
But I'm actually somebody who actually
only
feels
been
like
done once before by Austin in '98.
I'll just straight up say I feel like Miz earned the right to be considered number 1. Not necessarily like I would have put him number 1.
I think he earned the right to be considered.
But I think he earned the right to be considered. But here's one strike against him. His 5th best accomplishment. Now, they actually mentioned the top 5, not necessarily in order, but the top 5 accomplishments of the top 10 wrestlers. And the number 5 accomplishment is beating Jerry Lawler at Elimination Chamber to retain. Yeah, there are some years where if you were in a match with Jerry Lawler, that kept you out of the top 30.
I mean, the thing about The Miz is that didn't have a very impressive title reign.
He did host TMZ, though.
Oh, yeah. As far as length, it does, but I mean, he lost continually to John Cena on the house show circuit. All his wins were
on camera were either through Riley winning or something involving Cole or the ref not getting things right. How many people did he beat cleanly in the last 2 years?
I would rank this guy lower strictly on the basis that he has been able to make Michael Cole more annoying, which I didn't think was possible. But anyway, overall, I can't really say that he doesn't. Yeah, like you said, can't say he doesn't deserve to be up there, because he benefited. The Miz this year benefited from a weakened field. It was kind of a crap year for wrestling, frankly.
It was a transitional year for the WWE in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
and
it was a transitional year for the WWE. It was kind of the same thing for ROH because they didn't have their show as much, and that one. Now
they left one TV show. They worked to get a second TV show. Within the grading period, they kind of fell off of TV.
Yeah,
and they also had to deal with Danielson and McGuinness no longer being around, and Black no longer being around, and
sure.
So yeah, they and
we'll
talk at length.
Found themselves in a position of having to quickly make new main event stars.
Yeah,
and to their credit, they were able to pull it off pretty fucking admirably. WWE could take note, frankly. And as far as TNA's year is concerned, they were in a transitional year too. If you count transitioning from shit into even deeper shit, so. That's just sliding motion, but it is.
Well, they were. If you're going to use shit as the analogy, they transitioned from being full of shit to leaving behind a pile of shit. Is what TNA did. That's how I see it. Ring of Honor also, because this is taking wrestling as a business, Ring of Honor also loses points on the fact that they are lower on the wrestling totem pole.
Sure.
And that's what I think is great about PWI is that they recognize that, but they also don't use it as an excuse to pretend that other companies don't belong. And we'll get to the Ring of Honor has representation in the top 10, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But overall, Miz, yeah, he should be considered. He accomplished something that only Stone Cold Steve Austin had done previously, and he got people to turn their heads. And he also did a lot of things outside of the company that you have to recognize when you consider what his strengths as a champion and as the face of a product.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have put him number one.
No, I wouldn't put him number one either.
At number two...
Two is the Viper, Randy Orton.
Randy Orton.
Which, sure, why not? He had 2 title reigns during the grading period. He's been doing good work on SmackDown. His face turn has been done pretty well, I think. People haven't been turning on him like they did last time they tried to turn him face. And he's been okay. He's been perfectly serviceable. He's been putting on good matches.
During the grading period, he had 2 championship reigns as well.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Which is really important to PWI.
Yeah.
World title reigns is extremely important to them in their grading period.
I think Orton might have deserved number 1 this year, but
And just for clarity here, it says that their criteria goes off of win-loss record, which, having kept win-loss statistics, is very telling about who the company wants to promote and how they want to go about promoting them. Yeah. Winning a match and losing a match has 2 different outcomes, for the winner and the loser. And you could lose a bunch of matches, but if you're on TV all the time, you're getting a bigger push than somebody who's main eventing superstars.
One thing I found really interesting about this issue of PWI is that throughout it, you've got like the editors and the publishers, people who wrote it, talking about the Miz as number 1 and basically being like, look, we know, we're sorry, like there wasn't anyone else.
And there's also there's a method to the madness too of picking a more controversial or unusual or outside the box thinking when it comes to picking a number 1. If they throw Cena on the cover again, everybody's going to go, well, yeah, I know who Cena is. And to a certain extent, Randy Orton. If you're into wrestling, you know
number
Randy
1
Orton.
before. But I mean,
You throw Miz up there, you're going to go, why the did they pick Miz? And then you're going to see that they can justify it. They can give a fair assessment of why they feel like he should be number 1.
But one thing they talk about in some of the letters is that there's a difference in time between when they finish their rankings and when they put the issue out. And since in that period of time, Miz has fallen straight off the radar.
He's going to be lucky to be in the top 25 next year.
Yeah, I mean, if he continues the way he is, sure.
And there's a clear favorite for number 1 that emerged before this could go to print.
Again, if this continues, I think that, But I mean, shit. People are up. Miz is number 1 for having basically a really, really great half a year.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, I guess a little more than that, but honestly, not that much.
His relevance to the business, I think, eclipsed, stalwarts like Orton and Cena.
Yes.
For this one, if you're gonna
holding down the fort,
yeah.
Orton and Miz
Cena
was
was being
holding down the
Cena.
fort while Cena was being Cena with Nexus and doing that whole thing. That's why Cena comes in number 3, and I'm not even sure he deserves to be that high because not that he's turned in bad work, just that he hasn't been doing much. He's been
he won his 10th world title within the grading period.
That's true because he beat Miz, right?
He won the 7-on-7 at SummerSlam. That was his number 2. He won his 3rd Elimination Chamber match within the grading period.
That's pretty good.
He survived a 2-on-1 beating to beat The Miz in an I Quit match at Over the Limit, one of the lowest rated pay-per-views of all time. And he got revenge on Wade Barrett by beating and humiliating him in a tables match at TLC. What you're finding is a lot of these people's number 5 moment. It's like, oh God, wrestling wasn't really that great this year.
See, okay, I want to talk about number 4 for a minute. I really want to talk about number
I think that both
4.
of us were very intrigued by number 4, probably more than anybody in the top 10.
Yeah, definitely. Because number 4 was fucking Kane. Kane was 79 last year.
That's actually 79 was his lowest ranking on the PWI 500 since 1997.
Wow, look at that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But
He was 65 in 07, but it was his lowest ranking since the 90s.
His highest ever was 13. He got 13 twice. But,
Which is almost, they probably picked 13 to be ironic in some way.
But he's number 4, and this one is highest ever. And frankly, Kane had a great year.
I think he had a year equal to Miz in terms of
I
relevance
think he deserved
to the
number 1
business.
contention.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, man, his world title run was the shit. That was awesome. And how great was it to see him beat Undertaker 3 times in a row? That was amazing. It was great stuff. I loved it. His feud with Edge was really weird. I'll say that. And then they did a thing with him where they, you know, sort of abruptly turned him kind of face again and teamed him up with the Big Show again. And they won the tag titles.
Again?
You know, yeah, again. So I'm not sure with that, but frankly, I think, you know, number 4 is okay. I'm not pissed about that because it's pretty fucking high up.
I'm stoked that Kane's getting recognition like this.
But he deserves it because that was, you know, when they needed him to step up and hit a home run, man, he did. You know, they say in the article, that man came off the bench and he was like, I'll work for you. I'll hold your title and do a great program while people come back from injury or whatever they're doing, you know? And it was great stuff. He did a phenomenal job.
It was redemption for him as far as his career
some of
is
his
concerned.
best work.
He's
and
always
when
been
you're having some of your
considered
best work in your mid 40s.
He's always been considered, you know, kind of a laughing stock when it comes to world title discussion because he held it for such a brief period of time.
Held it for a day.
And he's always been the guy who challenges and loses. You know, but
see, now we can switch that over to Dolph Ziggler, and we can
just do that for 14 years. Kane, he came off the bench. Yeah, he's always been there, but they said, you know what, we need you to be everything you can be. We need you to hold the fort down. We're going to be doing some stuff with you that's going to be a little difficult to come across. You know, like feuding with a guy who isn't even around for half the year in The Undertaker. You know, and he did it. He did it all, and he pulled it off better than anyone could have expected. His promos during his feud with Taker,
great stuff.
Absolutely, it was some of it was the best of SmackDown, you know, and it was better than any of the matches SmackDown.
A lot of it was the best of Kane, as far as I'm concerned.
And it's a shame that the best of Kane set came out before this run even happened.
They'll come up with a new one. You know they're coming out with Ladder Match 2, right?
Well, I hope they don't include the ladder match they included from Nitro on the Nitro set I just watched, because that was one of the worst ladder matches I've ever seen.
There are actually a few Nitro matches, or a few ladder matches, or WCW things, but they also include the WrestleMania 10 match on this one. So
now it's relevant.
Anyway,
moving to number 5, this is a unique aspect that you get with PWI and their coverage of wrestling. Again, it's global, and with that, you got to recognize what's going on in other parts of the world, mainly Japan. And a country that is
people who wrestle really, really well.
And you know, this country, Japan, holds a very significant place in the world of wrestling.
Yes.
There are people like MVP, for example, who honestly feel like Japan is where your prestige is earned as a professional wrestler, and where you hone your craft better than any other place in the world. You know, Chris Jericho spoke to the importance of that.
If you want to become a great technical wrestler, you go train in Japan. I mean, that's kind of how it is.
And if you also want to learn storytelling and crowd manipulation and stuff like that, you do a lot of that in Japan as well.
Sure, and I mean, I think Japan is you know, primarily the technical aspect, but certainly storytelling. But, you know, then you go to Europe and you learn how to tell stories there, and you go to Mexico and you learn how to characterize yourself.
Right.
You know.
Well, speaking to the global importance of wrestling and how each corner of the globe really
there's almost always a Japanese guy in the top 10.
Exactly. And this year, the Japanese representative at number 5, which I think is very impressive,
pretty high,
is You say it. I always
Um,
butcher Japanese names.
Takashi Segura.
Much better than I would have said it.
Segura and I think it's Segura. Segura.
I think it's
or
Segura.
Segura, yeah. Takashi Segura, which I believe is how you pronounce his name, is number 5. And he was actually, I remember I took note of him last year's PWI because he was pretty high for the Japanese guys last year. He was number 14. And
He also, before that, he was actually not even ranked the 2 years prior to that.
yes,
In 2008 and 2009, he wasn't even ranked.
Yeah.
You know, so that speaks a little bit to their coverage of Japan mixed in with how things work over there, where people don't carry momentum at the same degree that they do over here for long periods of time.
He was the guy last year they were calling the Japanese Kurt Angle.
Yes,
he uses the ankle lock and the slams like Kurt Angle does.
But you know, here just to kind of talk about what he did, you know, his top 5 moments. He set a new record for the most title defenses of the Global Honored Heavyweight Championship with 14, surpassing Kenta Kobayashi, which is a major deal.
That's a pretty damn big milestone. He needs to hold the belt for a while longer before he can pass Kobayashi's record for actual length of time held it, but he did surpass number of defenses.
He also successfully defeated Togi Makabe, another major Japanese star, avenging a previous loss. He teamed with
Yoshihiro Takayama
to defeat.
And
this is cool because I have no idea how to say these names.
To defeat
Hiroki
Goto and Kazuchika Okada.
Thank you.
And
in a tag match at Wrestle Kingdom 5. He also wrestled in Mexico.
Yes,
showing that
GHC did a Mexican tour and with AAA, I believe, yeah.
And he was MVP in the pro wrestling division of the annual Tokyo Grand Prix of Sports Awards. Because over there, they actually treat these people like legitimate athletes.
Imagine that.
Much better than over here, where you know we elect them to public office.
Huge in Japan.
So
we elect them to public office. They elect them emperor.
Sure that you know that you may not follow Japanese wrestling, and you know it may not really.
Honestly,
mean
we really don't.
No, but because of PWI's coverage, you know they really speak to what's relevant over there, why it matters, and why you should care.
And that way, if something pops up that you do watch, like for example, if you know, I don't know, Takeshi Morishima shows up in Ring of Honor and wins the championship, you know a little bit about who he is.
Well, Alberto Del Rio.
Sure.
Perfect example.
Dos Caras.
Yeah. And Sin Cara now.
Mystico. He's actually been in the top 10 a couple of times.
Yeah. You know, these people have done things prior to becoming characters in the WWE.
Yeah,
you know, and if you follow the PWI and you follow what's going on around the world.
In TNA.
Yeah. Cardboard ones. Yeah. At that. Speak trends. I love when I have
Don't
a
you
transition.
Love when that happens?
It makes me really
speaking
happy.
of Alberto Del Rio.
Number 6 on this year's list is Alberto Del Rio. At the time. No.
Sorry.
At the time, Del Rio still wasn't even a world champion yet.
Yeah.
So to make it to number 6 without holding a world title is very impressive, especially considering who he's up against across the board.
Yeah.
Talking about what he did, he debuted. His in-ring debut was within the grading period.
Yes.
As his character. Now, he, of course, was ranked previously last year, as Dos Caras. He was 83rd, he was 88th before that, 73rd. He was actually as high as 45th in 2006.
Yeah, it's a pretty damn meteoric rise for him. I mean, he
won the Rumble.
He wins Money in the Bank. That's after the
that
grading
was after
period,
the grading period. But he did compete for the world title at WrestleMania, which is, for a guy who's debuted, that is huge to be in a world title match at WrestleMania within your first year.
We were surprised he didn't win it, as I recall. We all thought he was going to win.
Yeah. And, looking back on that, they may have given Edge the win because it was going to be his last match.
They might have.
They might have done it.
I don't know.
But yeah, and they also got him over as this kind of with his cross arm breaker as kind of a devastating heel at times too.
Yeah, the nice thing about working with Rey Mysterio is that Rey Mysterio is injured so often that there's almost always going to be the chance to get yourself over by storyline injuring him. So that's really. Anyway,
congrats to Del Rio. I really applaud the work WWE did in getting them to where he's at, and I hope he continues this momentum. I'm
I'm glad they found a guy who didn't come from their system that they're willing to push.
Yeah. So. Number 7. If you watched the previous upload, you're probably going to feel some of that here. But number 7
is some asshole.
Was TNA's highest representative, Mr. Anderson.
He won his first world title during the grading period. Yeah, it's not the same, is it?
I just look at this picture and I go, I'll get that in the shot there.
There you go.
Kennedy. I can't get past the fact that he's not Kennedy anymore.
No, I know. Anderson doesn't have the same ring to it. I don't like saying it.
But here's his accomplishments for those that are keeping score.
Let's look at his yeah. Okay, go ahead, do it.
He won. His number 1 moment was winning a number 1 contenders match and then winning an impromptu match to become world champion for the first time. Props to him. His number 2 accomplishment, beat Jay Lethal and the Pope to earn his way into the finals of a tournament for the vacant championship at Bound for Glory. He beat 2 people who, one that's not over at all anymore in the company, and the other who doesn't even work for them anymore.
Is now the television champion over Ring of Honor, and is extremely over because he's awesome.
The number 3 moment, he teamed with Jeff Hardy to beat Beer Money at Slammiversary in a match that had no purpose other than 2 people teaming up.
Jeff Hardy was actually doing Anderson the favor by teaming with him in that match because Anderson had lent Jeff his crack pipe beforehand.
It's only fair. That's courtesy. Yeah. Number 4, defeating Kurt Angle and RVD in a 3-way match on Impact to earn a world title shot. So 2 of his 4 moments so far earning world title shots. Number 5, he outlasted 24 other men in a battle royal, something Great Khali once did, on the May 12th edition of Impact
to earn another world title shot. So that's 3 out of 5.
So that speaks to TNA's lack of creativity. The same guy won a title shot 3 separate times in a calendar year. He only won 1 world title in that calendar year.
And for that, he's number 7.
And he's number 7.
Because he gets a lot of shots.
When TNA had the number 1 wrestler last year.
Right before.
And that wrestler won't even be mentioned in the top 10.
As soon as that magazine came out, that wrestler in question dropped like a fucking stone.
He went to the witness protection program, for Christ's sake. So, yeah, Anderson, he did accomplish some things that he's wanted to.
When they found out that he and Samoa Joe knew each other, they had to move them apart.
They can't be in the same building for some reason. Anderson accomplished some things that, as an individual performer, he's been wanting to accomplish for a while, and TNA got him to certain places that the character needed to go. But TNA is such a clusterfuck that it doesn't matter. And Anderson being number 7, for me, just says TNA just doesn't get it. They're not doing it right. They lost a step.
He's one of those guys who came over from WWE. He's getting over with TNA fans because they know who he is. And he's working for them because it's easier, and they'll let him do his happy juice, I'm sure. And, or maybe they won't fire him because of a fake wrist injury, but I think that's bullshit. Well,
I mean, they even say, as TNA as a whole reaches its potential, whatever, there's only so much Anderson can do to become a bigger star. And they're absolutely right.
Because there's no way in hell he's going back to WWE.
Where does he go higher?
He's not going back to WWE at all.
He is permanently going to be, like a Chuck Palumbo on the wrestling radar.
Oh,
they made him relevant in WCW.
That's harsh.
But in the wrestling world, was he really that relevant to anyone? Billy Kidman is another one. I love Kidman. They made him extremely relevant in WCW. But on the entire wrestling plane as a whole,
I was at least going to call him like a Booker T, where he won, a bunch of titles in WCW, and then the company went
right as they were running out of time,
and he was like no one after that.
Well, it also didn't help that they intentionally squashed him because he had the WCW label. But number 8 is a guy who will be lucky to crack the top 30 next year, and we can say this safely, because he'll be sitting out the first half of the grading period.
Yeah.
Rey Mysterio, I think Mysterio actually is Mexican for injured at this point. He is always hurt. He's at number 8 after having quite honestly
the
a very
mystery
good year.
is, when are you coming back?
He had a very
why
good
should
year.
we care? I'm sorry.
He won the world title again.
For Rey Mysterio.
He vindicated his world title reign by winning a second one. Whether how you feel about that, regardless, he is a 2-time champion.
Before he
now.
won the most latest one, before he lost that again. Anyway,
He was part of the 7-on-7 match that 14
the
people were a part of. He beat Cody Rhodes at Extreme Rules. And he beat Del Rio in a grudge match on SmackDown after being injured by Del Rio.
I should point out that he lost to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. So.
Yeah, and they don't mention that here.
No, they mentioned it for Cody
And
Rhodes.
his number 2 moment is beating Jack Swagger. So what does that make Alex Riley next year?
My feelings on Ray are well documented. I got a lot of respect for the guy, but I honestly find him fairly boring right now. He's got the same gimmick for like 10 years. And,
more than that. He's actually been the same character since he debuted in WCW.
I mean, the man's been wrestling for 22 years.
Yeah, and you gotta respect that.
You gotta respect that. And I do. And I understand that his character works for him and sells merchandise, kids love him, blah, blah, blah. I just kind of get a little sick of him. And, but he's fine. I mean,
and his character is very predictable. I think that's what's most sickening about his character of late is that, he comes back from injury. He has a big, pop when he comes back. He winds up in the role of the little guy. He winds up hurt or abused or unfairly treated. He wins a couple big matches, and then he goes back on the IR.
He's in a position on the card where you can tell if he's going to win or lose depending on who he's facing.
Yeah, very much so.
Because if he's facing anyone that's the main event level talent, he's probably going to lose that match. He's not going to beat John Cena. He's not going to beat Randy Orton. He's not going to beat he probably wouldn't beat CM Punk right now. He's not going to beat Del Rio.
Yeah.
But Miz maybe. Swagger sure.
Yeah.
Ziggler he'll beat him. So it's that kind of position. I mean, he's fine. I'm not going to say he's undeserving because he's Mysterio does a good job. But
coming in at number 9 though, as we mentioned,
yes,
Ring of Honor is proudly represented by one Eddie Edwards.
Eddie Edwards. God damn, this guy
what
is
a
good.
Meteoric rise for this guy. In 2006, it was his first year he was even ranked. He was 498 in 2006.
And he drops off the radar till 2009, where he's 92.
Yeah, where he suddenly leapfrogged 400 other people.
Spots.
And then 37 last year. I mean, this guy... Wow.
Yeah.
What a run. And Ring of Honor, to their credit, did a phenomenal job in taking a guy who was rather vanilla, I would say, initially.
Sure.
And maybe even a little directionless.
And definitely living in the shadow of
made
Davey
him-
Richards.
Yeah. Yeah, but made him matter within a very short period.
We got to a point, I got to a point when I was, and of course this might change because I did it wrong, but when I was doing the tournament bracket thing, the 64 tournament, I got to a point where I had booked Eddie against Davey, and I had to put one of them over into like the semifinals, and I put Eddie over.
Mm-hmm.
Because those two guys have to be kept on the same level. Eddie won the title first, then Davey beat him for it, but now it can't be the Davey show. You've got to have
well,
Edwards
that speaks to where Ring of Honor kind of put themselves in a little bit of a corner.
Yeah,
with the direction they took, in that Eddie will forever kind of hinge on where Richards is. It's the Michaels Jannetty situation, and that
it doesn't have to be though.
But it doesn't have to. Right, it doesn't have to be. But I feel like
it can be the Edge Christian situation.
It still kind of hinges. Well, I mean, Edge Christian, you're looking at what, like 13-2.
Well. Still,
when it's all said and done,
Christian's far more successful than Marty Jannetty ever was.
Yeah, but I feel like right now Edwards is directly tied to where Richards is in the overall scheme of things. But Richards, had momentum, had a following, had a developed character. Edwards kind of came from obscurity within the last year and a half.
With the American Wolves, sure, nobody had really heard of Edwards. At least I hadn't. But I mean, I think honestly, it was the Ladder War when he competed in the ladder war with that broken, what was it?
It was a broken
elbow,
arm or
right?
elbow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
his arm was
He wrestled
broken.
with a legit cast on
Yeah,
for a legit injury
and wrestled his ass off,
and pulled off moves, and
and they won the match.
yeah, and he held, and it wasn't Davey Richards carrying the damn thing. It was Eddie Edwards, being a part of that match.
And when he upset Roger Strong for the world title, it was so cool.
And that was his number one moment.
Yeah, I'm sure it
in
was.
the grading period.
Yeah.
But here's one of the things that speaks to why Ring of Honor gets it right. Yeah, they don't have a week in, week out TV show during the grading period. They're going to, as they've talked about. I'm stoked to watch that online. But
it's gonna be free. ROH TV.
Well, it's going to be free on TV. It's going to be free online, too.
Yeah, that's
they're
what
going
I
to
meant.
stream it online. But
you can stream on the website.
his moments, his top 5, winning the title, defending the title, retaining the title, earning a shot at the title, and defending the title.
Notice there's one, as opposed to Mr. Anderson, there's one earning a shot and 4 wins or defenses. Against, let's see, what was that roster people he won or defended from?
For Anderson?
No, for Edwards.
For Edwards.
We got
Strong.
Let's see,
Strong again.
Strong, Daniels, and Chris Hero.
Yeah, and he won a 6-man match
To me,
to earn the shot.
To me, that puts him that he had a better year than Anderson. I think he should be higher
Oh yeah.
than Anderson.
Yeah, that would definitely be a complaint of mine.
But
I digress. Number 10.
Number 10 has 9 spots to go till next year.
He is a lightning bolt in this business right now, and I only pray it goes on for another 9 months or so he can rightfully take his place as number 1 next year. CM Punk comes in at number 10. This is where I struggle with the PWI team. His number 1 moment was he commandeered control of the Nexus by having its members oust Wade Barrett. Now, PWI gives a lot of respect to the Nexus. They put them on the cover like 3 times. The Nexus was irrelevant. 3 years from now, we're not going to be talking about the Nexus.
I love the fact that Skip Sheffield is still on the Superstars page.
So that's where I'm frustrated. His number 2 moment.
His
he
number
lasted
2 moment is
35 minutes in the Rumble.
Longest in history.
I watched the Rumble. I watched the Rumble with my dad. And
I remember.
My dad, not a giant wrestling fan. He gets it, and he gets it on the level we get it. What's good for business, what makes sense storyline wise. What didn't make sense to either one of us. Yeah, he was in the Rumble the longest, but why didn't you just have him go for the record? If he was going to be in 35, what's the difference between him going for 35 minutes or going 65 minutes? It was irrelevant to have him be the longest running competitor in the match, but have him come nowhere near setting the record for longest in the match. And what he did in the match was organize people to throw other people out. He used the Nexus to eliminate a bunch of people, which makes perfect sense, but it didn't go anywhere. It didn't lead to a feud afterwards. It didn't create... They kept teasing the Nexus and the core during that match. It didn't go anywhere.
The fun thing about the grading period is that this shit ended right before his thing where he busted out. And so, honestly, the top 10 spot for him kind of surprises me, like that he even made it that high, just because he spent most of his year jobbing to fucking Big Show.
Well, he beat Cena. That was his number 3. Number 4, he beat John Morrison.
That's great.
And number 5, he laid out Randy Orton backstage. Those 5 moments don't sound like a top 10.
He lost.
Those 5 moments don't sound like a top 10 to me. But it still speaks to where wrestling was this year, that a guy who essentially didn't accomplish a lot in the grading period was able to be 10th most important or relevant guy.
And the thing about Punk is that no matter where he's at as far as on the card or on the storylines, he's always entertaining. It doesn't matter what you give him to do, he will come out and be amazing on the mic or in the announce booth or in the ring. He will do what he does better than anyone else who does it, and so that is probably why he made it up here.
These 5 moments speak to what he's doing now with his character. He honestly, aside from a phenomenal match of the year candidate at Money in the Bank,
And SummerSlam was good too.
and SummerSlam was good too. Aside from those two matches, he hasn't done anything other than talk, and that talking has made him more important and more relevant and more lucrative than anybody else in the business right now.
Yeah. He also beat
Bar
Del,
none.
he also beat Del Rio and Raw cleanly before SummerSlam. Which I think is funny.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Um,
But that's your top 10. I would like to hear your thoughts on how you feel about the top 10, just as a whole.
the fact that there's a TNA presence bothers me. The fact that one guy out of 10 was from TNA bugs the shit out of me, frankly. But that having been said, I think that it was a weak year. I think it was a weak year.
What I want to do, is while we're talking here, I'm just going to go through some of the other names that pop out. Number 11, another TNA guy, Rob Van Dam, just missed out on the top 10. An up and down year in TNA. Most of the beginning was up, while much of the second half was down.
That's the thing. Everybody who's getting on up here in the top 10, like they had a great half of a year. Miz and Kane had 5-month title reigns. Cena had a title reign.
But that's the other thing with RVD is he's up from 15 the previous year. He moved up 4 spots without really doing anything to earn it. Sheamus comes in at 12.
Senior losing streak.
He had a losing streak and only lost 2 spots. He was number 10 last year. He fell to 12. So a losing streak of his nature, mixed in with the I want to be an American champion crap he did. And basically losing to everybody despite getting the rocket strapped to him.
Pretty much all he did was a U.S. title reign.
Yeah.
And that's
and he only
it.
fell
And
to 12.
only fell to 12.
Roderick Strong comes in at 13.
That's pretty sweet. He won his world title for the first time, finally.
Lots of people out there. Daniel Bryan moved from number 44 to number 15.
That's pretty cool.
I think that's great for him, especially considering how they kind of booked him in the last year. Within the grading period, the guy went from being fired to to being he didn't win Money in the Bank in the grading period, but now he's poised to become a top 10 guy next year. Jeff Hardy comes in at number 16. He'll be lucky to be graded next year.
What does it say?
Started the year teaming with Anderson. Association cost him plenty of fans. Turned heel, won the title.
Oh yeah, that was well done.
Sent home by TNA after embarrassing performance.
Honestly, that was really well done in WCW in the 90s.
That wasn't even well done in the 90s. That was horribly done in the 90s. Dolph Ziggler comes in ahead of Kurt Angle. Dolph went from number 50 to number 17. And Kurt Angle flatlined. He was 18 last year, 18 this year. Jeff
Morrison flatlined too at like 27.
Jeff Jarrett was number 20 last year and number 20 this year. That almost speaks to the repetitive nature of TNA, that their stars didn't go up or down because they flatlined. Sting made himself very relevant once again, going from number 60 to number 21 on the overall list. But that again speaks to what the hell is TNA doing.
Barrett's at 19.
Barrett's at 19. Ultimo Dragon. What a revival for Ultimo Dragon, going from number 386 last year
23
to 23. Never had more than modest success in the U.S., but remains one of the biggest crossover Puroresu Lucha Libre stars in Mexico.
I've not seen anything about what he did this year, but whatever.
Well, let's see. Speaks Spanish.
Oh, speaks Spanish. Okay.
Dropped both singles and tag team bouts to Hajime Ohara. Draws upon a vast repertoire of innovative moves. Time no longer on his side.
Always a threat to capture the NWA middleweight title in CMLL.
But he beat last year's number 1, AJ Styles, who comes in a spot behind him at 24.
Oh, wow.
And he beat Davey Richards for Lord knows why. Christopher Daniels actually had a very productive year. He comes in at 26.
Davey Richards is 25.
Yeah, Davey Richards at number 25, up from 42.
That was before he won the title, for the record.
Bobby Roode comes in at number 30. He's kind of an enigma in that, he always kind of flirts with that. He's enough to go singles, but they don't go that route kind of thing. Then you've got some.
Well, it's Matt Morgan.
Exactly. Big Show had an off year, dropped from 17 to 31. Kazarian up 58 spots, jumped from number 92 to number 34.
For being
part of-
mentored by Ric Flair.
Yeah, that's what
And
Ric
also,
Flair
I
does
think
for you, apparently.
I think he won the X Division title too, didn't he?
Probably. Beat Mr. Anderson in Ultimate X match. Suplex Specialist snared his. Wow, that's clever. Snared his 5th X Division title by defeating Jay Lethal. And then
Cody Rhodes.
Line of Fortune, beat Immortal. Cody Rhodes at number
Cody
35.
Rhodes, 35. I love the fact that he's on his way up. That's awesome.
Chris Hero. Love that he's at 36, up from number 74.
Very nice.
Very nice year
Heroes-
for him.
Heroes had a
He
good
did
year.
a lot this year. Bully Ray. Say what you will, but TNA has forced Bully Ray down everyone's throats. They've insisted on making him a singles competitor. His relevance to the business as a singles competitor right now probably surpasses what WWE was able to do with him as a singles wrestler. But where are they going with this? Why are they doing
I mean, the man can work. I guess.
Why
you
are they
can
doing
let
it,
him
though?
work.
You know?
I don't know.
So he came in ahead of Samoa Joe. That tells you what's wrong with the world today. Joe came in
Joe's
at
down from
42.
last year.
Yeah, and you can't really argue he should have went up.
Yeah, no.
And then Sin Cara, he actually lost a spot despite
spot.
debuting in the WWE during the grading period. Claudio Castagnoli, the other half of the
Moved
Kings,
up.
he moved up from 80 to
Generico makes a
44,
big leap.
from 118 to 46. That is
When
a
you-
72 position jump.
That phenomenal feud with Kevin Steen, which had a great blow off, and then he was TV champion for a while. So
And he also competed for the world title for a few months. He was in the mix.
he did.
Alex Shelley had another meteoric rise from 88 to 47. Chris
As in
Sabin
Chris
right
Sabin.
behind him, 95 to 48.
Well, the Machine Guns had some great stuff going on.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
Tyler Black, he took quite a tumble. He's now Seth Rollins over in the developmental program for WWE. He dropped from number 19 to number 53 as a result. That's always going to happen when you make the transition from the minors to the bigs. But I look for Seth to probably move up if he can debut. If he can find a way to debut in the next year, I think he moves up compared to next year. Hernandez at number 55. He got a lot of use out of TNA this year. He actually improved on his position last year, but
Pope drops.
Who cares? Pope dropped 20 spots to number 56. Mark Henry had a pretty significant jump, up 42 spots from number 99 to number 57.
He'll be even higher
this year.
next year.
Gunner is in the top 60. He's at number 59. Abyss took a tumble. He fell into
40
the
spots.
Abyss. Yeah, 37 spots. Hey-o. That's right. So Abyss at number 60. Brother
Hey, look,
Devon.
Matt Hardy is in about the same place.
Matt Hardy went up a spot from last year. He's now number 65.
Yeah, good for him. I was glad I didn't have to include him in the 64-person bracket. I was very happy
Perhaps
about
one of the biggest jumps in the bracket, Robbie E. went from 304 to
That's right. Moving on.
67.
Moving on, who cares?
Ted DiBiase doubled up. He was 34 last year. He's 68 this year. Disappointing year for DiBiase. Not because of him. Disappointing because they're just not using him.
I imagine DiBiase is pretty disappointed with that everything right now.
Another massive jump. Tommy Dreamer up 121 spots to number 72.
What the hell did he do to deserve anything?
Disappointing.
Other than sell out the legacy of what something that used to be fantastic.
Disappointing. Shelton Benjamin only moved up 5 spots with his career choices from number 76 to number 71.
Hold on. I'm sorry, I just gotta look. Sorry, the Tommy Dreamer entry had me think. What does it say here? Let me see.
This is one of my guys. I love Tommy Dreamer.
Resurrected the spirit of ECW once again.
Thank God.
Spearheading TNA's Hardcore Justice pay-per-view last year. He and his ECW comrades formed the short-lived EV 2.0 faction.
Short-lived.
Rekindled old feud with Raven in a bloody match with Hardcore Justice. Got fork stuck in his eye, courtesy of AJ Styles.
A redo.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck Tommy Dreamer.
Yeah,
Brought back the spirit of ECW, my ass.
it's just rehashing old crap. Dreamer's relevance in the business because of that skyrocketed. But as far as what he really contributed,
I don't think his relevance skyrocketed. I think he's less relevant now than he's ever been before, because now he has less respect.
well, you can argue that this list has nothing to do with people's actual respect level.
Fair enough.
The Briscoes up here. The first Briscoe J pops in at number 74. That's actually down 12 spots from last year. Austin Aries took a tumble.
He hasn't been wrestling much.
He actually dropped from number 25 to number 76 this year. Max Buck had a good year. He's up to number 77 overall. Jushin Thunder Liger
appears once again for what, his 21st consecutive year or something?
27.
Well, no, I know, but in the PWI.
Yeah, that should be what 20.
That's year's pro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Liger went up from number 317 to number 80 on the
Good
list.
for him.
But above him, excellent year for one Charlie Haas. He wasn't even ranked last year.
Nice.
And he's number 79
That's
this year,
awesome.
proving that he belonged in the top 100 the entire time.
Haas earned the respect of the indie fans.
And Benjamin and Haas, I think, move at least 20 spots higher when all said and done at the end of the year.
Probably.
I know that's not saying a whole lot, but I really do feel that way.
I see that, Briscoe.
Orlando fucking Jordan at number 82.
I think that's actually his middle name.
Never mind. Kenny Omega had a good ranking, despite really not being very visible in the U.S. during the grading period. Carlito at 87. Not really sure how I feel about that one. Vladimir Kozlov at number 92. Colt Cabana at 94. He might actually move higher up just because of what's been going on with CM Punk. But
who knows?
Cabana's got to get in the ring and wrestle. He hasn't been doing a whole lot of that
Eric
lately.
Young takes a tumble significantly,
Ooh,
and David
yeah.
Otunga gets kicked up a whole lot.
110 spots.
Tommaso Ciampa, sitting at 99 spot, breaks the top 100 for, I believe, the first time.
Yeah, he was 228 last year.
So good for him. He won Super 8. That was awesome.
Santino Marella up 250 spots.
Because he did so much.
Paired with Kozlov.
He won the tag titles.
They actually still ranked him behind Kozlov, and Kozlov doesn't even work there now. I don't know about that one. Really
Low key up
105 spots despite losing all overness with the national audience, and none of his doing.
Yeah. Well, no, it was his doing. He asked for his release.
Great Khali moved up 25 spots. Not even sure how that's possible.
Adam Cole moved up 300 spots.
Alex Riley
to
moved up
115.
134 spots.
Nice.
Jimmy Jacobs, he'll be higher up next year, I think. He went from 150 to 108, so he's moving the right direction.
Jay Lethal goes up.
Scott Steiner still around at 110.
Tyson Kidd, ouch. 58 to 113, that's harsh.
Yeah. McGillicuddy went from 114 to 117. That shows you they're not doing the right thing there.
Kevin Steen went from 54 to 122. This is before his return, so he was not really relevant.
MVP dropped from 59 to 121. That's what leaving the WWE can do.
Yeah.
Which I still think was the best move for him anyway.
Giant Bernard moves up from 192 to 130. Good for you, Albert.
Yeah, they got a picture of him in here. Looks like he shaved his back. That's good.
That's good because they used to chant that and have signs. Shave your back. Shave.
Finally read one of those signs. Probably just learned English.
The chess man spins his wheels, stays exactly the same at 133.
Zack Ryder at 140. The world is begging for this guy to be top 25, and he is never going to get outside of the top 200 or inside the top 100
unless they start doing
at this rate. Delirious still ranked. I would have probably put him lower just because of his inactivity. He came in at 141.
Yoshitatsu moves down 60 spots.
Makes sense. They actually kind of predicted good things for him after he won that WrestleMania Battle Royal.
Because that matters.
We only remember that because we were there.
Yeah.
Rhino moved backwards. Big Daddy Voodoo. That's Big Daddy V, Mabel, whatever.
Outlisted last year.
and he came in at 159. He's been very relevant on the independent scene. Whether his matches have been any good, I couldn't tell you. But
Yeah.
Chavo actually moved up. Chavo Guerrero moved up 15 spots despite being fired. That's pretty good. I guess technically he asked for his release, whatever that means. Chris Masters didn't really go anywhere despite an unusual year
Murphy.
for him. Fuck Murphy.
Oh, whatever. I mean, I think
yeah.
we're getting down into things here, but basically, I think I don't know about your overall impressions.
Well, one of the impressions I felt like is that some of these people just didn't. I don't know what they did to deserve the ranking they got, but then you turn and flip the coin and you go, well, what did the people behind them do? And you honestly have the same argument for all of them. They didn't do anything. I feel like it was a really stale year for the entire group.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much agreed that this PWI is primarily marked by people getting higher spots than they generally deserved because nobody did anything much better.
Exactly.
I think that's, I don't hold with Miz being number one. I don't really see that decision, but whatever.
But I do want to say as
I think there should be no TNA representatives above the 300 mark.
I think as a closer, I do want to say, first off, congrats to Shockwave the robot.
Oh yeah,
he moved up to 475. I love this guy. Finally got to see him wrestle.
That was Shockwave was awesome. Wonder if Shima Zion is on that list.
Wow, I think he is actually. But I also
saw Rich Swann.
Oh man, the top to bottom of the 500 I think is a lot stronger, 1 to 500 than it has been in previous years. I feel like the overall wrestling game is getting a lot smarter, a lot stronger, a lot deeper.
Sure. Well, I mean, you look at those back,
and it's better for everyone involved.
You look at the lower half of the guys. I was looking through. I went through earlier to see how far back it took me to find the pages where there were guys I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
It took 450.
Yeah. I mean Cheech at 423.
This is pretty deep.
We know who that is.
Most of these guys have been wrestling for a while and wrestling long enough for independent fans like ourselves to know who they are.
Right.
And I think that's. And a lot of them are smaller, which is good. A lot of them, it's a reflection of, I think The Miz being number one is a bit of a reflection of the way WWE has started to change their product.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the fact that TNA didn't do very well overall compared to the other companies is a reflection of the way their product is going downhill.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ring of Honor having a representative in the top 10 is a huge
Well, it's
plus
also
for them,
Ring of Honor is also getting much better representation throughout the top 100 or so too. They're broadening their talent pool.
Most of the Ring of Honor guys were moving up, not down.
Yes, and Ring of Honor really took advantage of the fact that the other companies didn't do anything to push themselves further.
Yes.
Overall impressions, the 1 to 500 overall is better than it's been in previous years, and that's a good thing. The overall health of the top 100, though, frustrating. We need to get a prescription to these guys because they're not performing like they need to. They're not.
Yeah, I'm hoping
that pushing the game forward.
I'm hoping that Punk can really do what he seems to want to do, which is revitalize the wrestling business a little bit and make things better for everyone.
Yeah. I just on that note, we'll plug that I am going to turn the 500 into one hell of a bracket. And you'll be able to check out all of that here on the Vanilla Thunder Productions channel.
Certainly. I will be critiquing his choices.
Absolutely. I think that'll be a lot of fun. I figured out how to make 500 people have an actual wrestling tournament. I'm going to critique how I think it would actually go down. Predict, I should say, how I think it's really going to go down. And you'll be there to critique every step of the way. And
I'd love to tear you down, man.
While I'm putting all that together and while I'm reviewing DVDs, talking about wrestling, you can always follow me on Twitter at EJ Kaboom. All my wrestling thoughts, as it happens, follow me on Twitter at EJ Kaboom.